Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing details. Today we're discussing a watch that bowed at Baselworld 2013. This is the Grand Seiko Heritage Collection Spring Drive Automatic Reference SBGA093. So the timepiece is 39 millimeters in diameter in stainless steel, a fairly thin 13.1 millimeters thick. From lug tip to lug tip, it is 48.4 millimeters and has a 19 millimeter spacing between the lugs. You can see that the timepiece wears nicely on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, comfortable enough, relatively narrow across. I could recommend it for a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference, and it is flat enough that it'll fit underneath a formal cuff or dress sleeve. Let's take a quick look side to side. The legs really aren't near overlapping the edge of my wrist. The watch is very comfortable. Taking a quick look at the strap. It is a Grand Seiko factory piece, calfskin on the bottom. We have large rectangular scale alligator leather on the top, and this is very symmetrical large scale, so an exceptionally expensive and high quality cut of leather. Black semi-gloss with a folded edge, monotone stitch. You can see no crimping, no gouging. And then on the opposite side, we have a vintage Grand Seiko logo on a twin trigger released single fold deployant clasp. So this watch is part of the Heritage Collection, which is designed to evoke the original 1960 3180, the first Grand Seiko, which is why we have these long arcing lugs that are distinctly broken out from a polished rotund case. We have this boxed sapphire that's designed to look just like a vintage plexiglass, and we have this vintage logo on the folding clasp. The folding clasp itself is not a vintage element, as that wouldn't have been equipped in 1960, but this logo would have been. Now, the case is beautiful, not just because of its proportions, but because of its finishing. This is the so-called Zaratsu, or tin plate black polish, applied by Japanese artisans at Seiko, Grand Seiko, and Crador, and so holding the surface to be polished directly against a spinning tin plate is an art that takes about 3 years to perfect, and it creates a black or mirrored finish that appears black from many angles. You can see how it turns from bright to black as I tilt it through the light. And this is something you see on the movements of very fine Swiss watches, but only on tiny pieces and only at high prices. A watch in this price point that has this much black polish is something exceptional. I also want to make sure that I catch a few of the imperfections of this watch. It is, after all, a pre-owned timepiece. You can see there's a little nick in that lug. And then there's also one on this lug right here. Just some things to be aware of. The watch overall is in very good condition. We have a Grand Seiko logo on this rotund, sharply knurled crown. And then we have that box-like sapphire, which does have the off-axis distortion qualities of a plexiglass. Now, this dial is best described as a sort of matte champagne, or maybe a rustic ivory, but it is beautiful with a sandpaper-like grain and a distinctly off-white cream tone. We have hands, a frame for the date, the Grand Seiko logo, and indices, all of which are created on diamond-tipped milling tools by artisans who only make these parts all day long. This is a very specialized craft, but the results of that specialization are truly spectacular. As you can see, the blade-like faceting of those hands at center and the truly mirrored polish on their tops. You can also see that each of these little indices has a razor-sharp break from its top to its sloping sides, and none of this is done quickly. Finally, all of it is placed by hand once it's ready. So while Rolex and Grand Seiko generally tie for overall mainstream luxury dial quality, the actual amount of hand labor on a Grand Seiko is much, much higher. Take a quick look. There's a small power reserve indicator, 1/3 of which is red, to remind you that that is the danger zone for your watch running down. It is an automatic winding watch with caliber 9R65. It's a spring drive movement. Spring drive has a unidirectional governing wheel. You can see it turning on the reverse side. It took from 1977 to 2005 to bring automatic winding spring drive to market. And so what we're getting here is a technology where there's a spring, no batteries, no motors, no capacitors. The spring drives a train that turns the governing wheel. The governing wheel creates an induced electrical current that wakes up a quartz oscillator. The quartz oscillator uses a back electromagnetic force as a braking instrument against the governing wheel. The governing wheel is directly geared to the hours, minutes, and seconds. So the quartz oscillator uses electromagnetic braking via an induced electrical current to slow down the discharge of the energy from the mainspring. But all of the motive force to move these hands is coming from the mainspring. And because the governing wheel moves in only one direction, it's not a Swiss lever, there's no stagger or stop or stutter or step to this seconds hand. It is purely smooth. One of the great spectacles in horology, the Grand Seiko Spring Drive Glide, and it's accurate to plus or minus 15 seconds a month. Remember, a COSC Swiss chronometer, mechanical, is only accurate to plus 6 minus 4 per 24 hours. It has a couple of subsidiary functions, including a hacking second, so you can set it to a reference time. And then there's also a quick set, so you can rapidly cycle the date if you wish to do so. Power reserve indicator, 72-hour power reserve, or 3 days. You can see it's nicely decorated. Watchmaker made, watchmaker tuned, and when the time comes, watchmaker serviced. 30 jewel movement protected in this vintage style case to a surprising 100 meters, which is solidly more than you get on standard dress watches. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.